Could UFOs be more than just unexplained objects? What are these mysterious lights in the sky, really? What are they doing here? There is a lot of evidence suggesting they are real, and possibly not just physical entities. Do these creatures have bad intentions or not? Dolores, a quantum hypnotherapist and author of several books who spent decades researching extraterrestrial beings and crazy subjects, brings to you a better understanding today. In her book, The Convoluted Universe, you find incredible insights into these beings and their interactions with humanity. This supports the idea that what we often dismiss as UFO sightings may actually have a spiritual dimension. This book will help you expand your understanding of human consciousness, the mysteries of the universe, and a variety of case studies and theories that challenge conventional, often even spiritual thinking. Take the time to read it, and I'll tell you how you can find it pinned in the first comment. It recently emerged that some supposed alien beings could actually be demons, and that the government of the United States of America could be in contact with these entities. If this is indeed true, it's pretty scary information. If you're new here, I invite you to subscribe to our channel. So, let's get started. Interestingly, this is in line with what many Christians have said. These entities are not aliens from another planet, but spiritual beings. I ask you, is there any explanation in the Bible for what we see in the heavens? Just think about how our understanding and acceptance of the UFO phenomenon have evolved over the last decade. Once overlooked, these discussions are now receiving significant attention. Did you ever think that 5 or 10 years ago we would be openly discussing UFOs and aliens, not just in the fringe corners of the internet, but in prime time? Major news organizations are breaking stories about UFO sightings, and even suggesting that our own government acknowledge their reality. I never thought we'd be here, but that's exactly what's happening now. It's not just about little green men, it's a much bigger problem, dark and very heavy. What was once easily dismissed can no longer be ignored today. Well, first of all, deception is always a bad thing. Lying is not just legally wrong, it is morally corrupt. Lying can infiltrate a person's soul, transforming them into an evil being, as lying essentially serves the interests of evil. This has an inescapable moral quality that is very obvious, but advanced civilizations often ignore it. Lying on a massive scale, especially about something so significant, is inherently bad. So that's the first layer of why this is dark. We also have evidence. In April 2020, the Pentagon released 3 videos taken by Navy pilots showing unidentified aerial phenomena, or UFOs, in the famous Tic Tac incident. These videos show objects moving at speeds and in ways that we simply cannot explain with our current knowledge of physics. The pilots who saw them were extremely surprised, describing maneuvers that no known aircraft can perform. Pilots in Japan saw a cluster of lights moving in formation over the sky over Sendai in July 2020. In Oahu, Hawaii, people reported seeing a strange object in the sky that plunged into the ocean without leaving a trace in December 2020. These sightings are happening all over the world and are becoming harder to ignore. To understand why some believe these UFOs may be spiritual beings, we need to consider the historical and cultural contexts. Many ancient texts, including the Bible, describe beings that could fit these UFO descriptions. Many ancient texts often depict angels, demons, and other spiritual entities with abilities that align with these modern sightings. And if the government has known about this existence for decades, possibly for 80 years or more, perhaps even since the 1930s, what is the end game here? There are 2 obvious explanations. The first is the one we hear often. This information is so heavy that if the public knew about it, it would be too upsetting. It would be very scary. People can panic, and there's not much we can do about it. There is evidence suggesting that there may be a long-standing relationship between the government and these things. And that raises a lot of questions about intent. What are the purposes of these entities? And what has been the nature of your interactions with humans? These encounters were reported to have injured people. These beings may not be extraterrestrial, but interdimensional. This means that they do not come from distant planets, but from a different realm of existence. This idea fits into the physical behavior of these objects, which challenge our understanding of physics, suggesting that they operate under different physical laws. If we consider the implications, it gets even more complicated. This could explain many ancient accounts of gods, angels, and demons, which may have misinterpreted encounters with these entities. But why the secrecy? Why would the government keep this information secret for so long? If certain groups establish contact with these beings, they may have access to advanced knowledge or technologies that they wish to keep secret. Have you come across any convincing theories or noticed anything strange? There are stories about how, in the past, someone managed to obtain government documents about UFO and alien abduction cases, probably through Freedom of Information requests. At the time, this whole issue was not in the spotlight of the American public, as it was too fringe and taboo to discuss. They highlighted that it all started with Nazis smuggling into America and having them secretly invent technology for us. Think back to the first big story that broke in Roswell in 1947. Heiser noted that this alleged alien crash was part of the so-called Project Blue Book. These early UFO sightings resembled the technology Hitler was working on during World War II. Hitler and the Nazis were developing their own secret aircraft, which looked like the first sightings of what we thought were UFOs in our skies. We are talking about objects that are, by definition, supernatural, above the laws of nature as we understand them, and have resulted in deaths. A Stanford School of Medicine professor named Gary Nolan studied the physical effects on individuals who had close encounters with UFOs. His research includes analyzing changes in brain structures and other physiological impacts. This is serious business and suggests that these encounters are not just figments of the imagination, but have real, measurable consequences for people's health. For example, there have been numerous reports of radiation burns, unexplained illnesses, and even deaths following close encounters with UFOs. Investigations into these incidents are ongoing. The implications are enormous, not only for our understanding of these phenomena, but also for public health and safety. We need to critically analyze the information, understand the implications, and consider the wider impact on society. He's worked on this for more than 10 years, evaluating injuries to US military personnel who have been near or come into contact with these objects. His conclusion is that there is some type of energy coming out of these objects that confuses people's brains or even kills them. This is based on your actual injury assessments. The New York Post even reported this, highlighting Nolan's statements. He said that not only have extraterrestrials visited Earth, but they have also been here for a long time and may still be here today. This was during a session titled The Pentagon, Extraterrestrial Intelligence and Crashed UFOs. He emphasized that the National Defense Authorization Act, which President Biden signed in December, dedicates 30 pages to the establishment of an Office for Unidentified Aerial Phenomena. The establishment of this office underscores the regularity of these sightings. Investigations into these phenomena are the responsibility of this office due to the frequency of incidents. The interpretive lenses of various worldviews filter what you are seeing and hearing right now, friends. I hope you can appreciate it. I don't think anyone disputes that something is happening around us. Video captures and other devices track evidence, making it more than just a testimonial. This is indisputable. However, what we are seeing is a variety of interpretations of the evidence. It makes sense why those who reject the supernatural realm and those who accept its reality are looking at the same evidence. Interestingly, many on both sides agree that these entities come from another dimension. This is a significant point of agreement. This suggests that it is highly unlikely, if not impossible, that these are interstellar travelers. If we take a look at what the Bible says in Genesis chapter 3, verse 1, the serpent was the most cunning of all the beasts of the field that the Lord God had made. Eat from some tree in the garden? And the serpent said to the woman, who then answered him, We can eat the fruit of the trees in the garden. But God said, You shall not eat the fruit of the tree that is in the middle of the garden, nor shall you touch it, lest it die. The serpent then said, Surely, woman, you will not die, for God knows that when you eat, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. The woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was a delight to the eyes. She took some of its fruit and ate, and she also gave some to her husband, who was with her, and he also ate. The most fascinating thing about this story is actually that we have a serpent talking to Adam and Eve. How is this possible? The Hebrew word for serpent actually has some leeway in its consonant arrangement, which may imply a triple meaning. So, it's not just a serpent or a wild beast talking to Eve. The word serpent, when understood as a verb, refers to someone who communicates on behalf of the supernatural realm. Isn't that what we see happening in the story? The serpent intends to explain what God meant when he spoke. So if we're talking about how long these entities have been here, they've been around since the Garden of Eden. For thousands of years, they have led men and women down the path of spiritual harm. This idea that these beings have been here for so long and have influenced humanity aligns with the broader interpretation of various religious and historical texts. Cultures and time periods have documented a consistent pattern of influence and deception. If both UFO sightings and alleged alien abductions are aspects of the same phenomenon, what is motivating these actions? Science fiction is the model many use to understand this, an advanced race of beings from somewhere else. But historically, all other societies have used a spiritual model. They believed in a supernatural world that acted on people for good and bad. All societies thought this way before ours. In August 1945, when we dropped the atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, after that the West became officially secular, believing that there was no God besides us. That's the world we grew up in, but it's an anomaly. No other society has ever thought this way. All other societies have assumed, with varying explanations, that spiritual forces are always at work. The details differ, but the central idea has never changed from ancient times until now. The concept of a spiritual battle has been the basis for all societies and religions, not just Christianity. So, if we set aside our very recent assumptions about how the world functions, the idea of spiritual forces influencing us seems like the most obvious explanation, doesn't it? This perspective was much more evident to people who lived before 1945. These phenomena would have been seen as part of the spiritual world that all societies wrote about. This ongoing discussion highlights the convergence of different worldviews in interpreting the same phenomena. Whether through a scientific or spiritual lens, the underlying agreement about the existence and impact of these entities is compelling. Understanding the motivations and implications of these interactions continues to be a profound and complex challenge. The 1950s theorized anti-gravity propulsion systems, which operate without igniting fuel and pushing something out. They function in a unique manner, harnessing gravity to swiftly travel to new locations, effectively altering space-time. People who are going to do some kind of work in Area 51 drive to a certain location, and then are taken in a small plane to Groom Lake. They cannot say anything about the nature of your work. It is not inconceivable that over the past 70-plus years, they have theorized and eventually implemented some of these technologies. They may have developed drones that can move in ways that people who understand conventional propulsion systems could not imagine. The crashed UFO recovery program essentially involves going out, finding these crafts, and trying to discover them. We have a drone on Mars, as well as lunar rovers. So, Is it so absurd to think that an advanced civilization, whether from another planet or another dimension, could have left us something to discover? It's an incomprehensible thought. If these crafts are in fact donations left for us to reverse engineer, it implies a level of technology and understanding far beyond our current capabilities. It raises questions about our place in the universe and our relationship with these advanced beings. This ongoing research and debate highlights the complexity of the phenomena we deal with. Whether we are looking at it through a scientific lens or considering the spiritual implications, the evidence points to something far beyond our current understanding. Now, what if there were beings like us on another planet who lived uninterruptedly with the advancement of their technology for 1,000 years, 10,000 years, or even 1,000,000 years longer than us? How would we be able to understand what we are seeing? We monitor our skies, but if something appears and disappears essentially instantly, something can bend time and space and traverse immense distances almost instantaneously. What kind of detection systems do we have? We have radar, visual systems, and various military detection systems to search for enemy planes and aircraft. But if we're dealing with something 1,000,000 years more advanced than us, how much would we be able to detect? This points to an alternative interpretation based on a worldview different from the Christian one. Perhaps these beings are millions of years advanced. Maybe they are bending time and space to travel here instantly. To differentiate these competing interpretations, we need to go back to the evidence and look for the best explanation for them. Additionally, examine what you are willing to bring to the table when starting your assessment. Starting with the presupposition that there is no supernatural realm will inevitably shape your conclusion. When it comes to the supernatural, many of us err on the side of empirical verification. We fail to realize that starting with the idea that there is no such thing as the supernatural does not derive from empirical study. It's something you consider in advance when assessing the world around you.